Well, you already know that a new episode released from Monarch Legacy of Monsters definitely calls for a new marvelous video, which means we are back to spoiler-ridden territory. For those who still haven't started watching it, we are already 3 weeks in, guys. Just watch it already. Anyways, on our customary recap, let's roll back and take a look at what the initial 3 episodes showcased. So, Kate goes to Japan only to uncover remnants of her father's past and discover the existence of an entirely different family he had in the country. That's how Kentaro, her newfound half-brother, joins her, and together they unravel mind-bending mysteries from their father's otherwise mysterious past. Now, this show is almost like a 10-hour-long movie being released in smaller chunks and hence seamlessly weaves frequent flashbacks of the past along with the ongoing adventures with Kate and Kentaro. Set against the backdrop of a world reeling from the catastrophic events of G-Day, which is a year after Godzilla's devastating rampage in San Francisco, the narrative delves into the far-reaching chaos that ensued. Amidst this aftermath, Kate and Kentaro stumble upon a bag containing suspicious encrypted audio tapes, prompting them to enlist the help of May, a coding expert, and of course, Kentaro's ex-girlfriend. Although she reluctantly ends up helping the siblings, it inadvertently draws the attention of Monarch, a covert government organization tasked with managing all the monster-related crises. The trio are now on the run from Monarch while trying to prevent them from getting their hands on Hiroshi, their dad's audio tapes. Soon they go in search of Lee Shaw and break him out of the Monarch-monitored retirement home. Next, we know the group is on a ship to South Korea in search of Lee's contact, who later takes them to the icy Alaskan range on a warplane in search of their father, Hiroshi Randa, who had probably left to complete the incomplete work of his father, Bill Randa. Up till episode 4, Parallels and Interiors, all the other episodes gave us a good glimpse of some massive kaijus, and episode 3 ended with the appearance of an icy terror, the Vark. While the 3 episodes had skillfully held the premise of an action-packed, intense global mayhem, episode 4, compared to that, was lukewarm at best, given that we don't exactly get to see another kaiju in the series. Even though the show has still got some good classic MonsterVerse sound effects content, along with a good old soundtrack, the flashback to the gripping 50s have been replaced by a lackluster meet-cute romance trope of a more recent era. Although we do not see a Godzilla cameo in this episode, we do see the big, scary, icy titan Vark make a glorious comeback. So with the recap out of the way, let's get to exploring the newest Monarch episode without wasting another second. But before we go to our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. What happened in the 4th episode of Monarch Legacy of Monsters? The episode begins in Utah in 2015, where a certain Dr. Barnes makes a groundbreaking discovery from her beachside trailer truck involving peculiar readings and promptly informs her Monarch team in Virginia about her findings. Apparently, these readings imply that there's been a radiation surge in Alaska, very similar to the data recorded just prior to the devastating G-Day attack. Plus, these readings appear to be intricately linked to the ice monster in Alaska, which first graced the screen in the previous episode. The storyline then shifts back to Kate's journey in the snowy landscape, seamlessly picking up from the cliffhanger in the previous episode as Shaw, May, Kate, and Kentaro find themselves in an almost fatal situation as they are relentlessly pursued by the Vark Titan. After quite literally freezing Do-ho, their South Korean military pilot, the Vark Titan wreaks havoc, destroying their shelter and depleting most of their essential supplies. The tension builds as Kentaro ingeniously uses a flare gun to divert the attention of the monster's creature, providing a brief respite for the group, who sees this opportunity to seek refuge in a nearby cave and hide from the kaiju. After finding temporary safety in the cave, the group's relief is short-lived as May accidentally slips, immersing her legs in the bone-chilling water. The group barely manages to get May's leg out when the Vark lures above, forcing them to stay absolutely silent while May goes hysterically as she is grappled with the harsh reality of their situation. Stranded without food or proper shelter, the gang is caught with a dilemma, but as May's delirium begins to set in, the urgency of their predicament intensifies. The group, now at critical crossroad, must have a pivotal decision on their destination as Kentaro advocates for heading towards a certain base he spotted from above, believing that it holds the key to their salvation. On the other hand, Lee suggests making their way to the coast, proposing an alternative path for their survival after seeing a strange light emerge from the middle of an icy nowhere. The divergence in opinions reaches a breaking point, and the group finds themselves at an impasse so unable to reach a consensus, they reluctantly decide to split up, with each member choosing their preferred direction. Because nobody saw what Kentaro was really talking about, Mei simply dismissed it by saying that it was simply one of his cons for having a very imaginative mind. Even if Kate tries to stop him in a bold move, Kentaro sets out on his own, determined to navigate the treacherous, unforgiving icy terrain towards the base that he had glimpsed from the sky. Now, all of these scenes are skillfully interwoven with flashbacks, transporting us to the previous year, Tokyo 2014, where the focus shifts to the blossoming relationship between Kentaro and Mei during a pivotal time in their lives. In this poignant trip down memory lane, Kentaro, on the cusp of launching his own art show, suddenly meets Mei on the bustling streets of Tokyo as he was trying to take a picture of the poster featuring his first art exhibit, but ends up taking Mei's picture instead while she was walking past the gallery. Mei, being Mei, does not rest until she makes Kentaro delete the picture, but this meet-cute takes an unexpected turn as Kentaro is completely captivated by Mei's presence and decides to forego his art show momentarily. He then leads her to a clandestine whiskey bar, setting the stage for a night of spontaneity as the shady entrance leads to a pretty posh bar whose lights were apparently designed by Kentaro. As the two get absorbed in the conversation and of course the expensive whiskey, the night ends with Kentaro taking Mei to his intimate art studio apartment where the chemistry between them intensifies. Flirting amidst the creative ambience, their connection deepens, culminating in a more intimate moment as the two finally end up having sex. Although Kentaro pries to know more about Mei, she does not give out much apart from being a nerd who does boring computer shit. Despite the magnetic pull between them, Kentaro eventually agrees to make a brief appearance at his own art show's opening and leaves Mei at his studio after exchanging their numbers. Returning to the present timeline, the narrative takes a suspenseful turn as Kentaro, alone in the wilderness, detects peculiar sounds that send shivers down his spine, which only intensifies as he reaches out for the small bottle of water in his pocket, only to find it frozen. The blizzard intensifies as Kentaro starts hallucinating Kate and Mei's voice, and soon he collapses as his fate hangs in the balance against the harsh backdrop of the unforgiving terrain. Simultaneously, Kate, Mei, and Lee find themselves trapped in a disorienting loop as they look for the light in the hope of finding a human settlement, only to inexplicably end up back at Hiroshi's campsite. Soon, Mei's body starts to give out to hypothermia, which of course means that the trio is now faced with a pressing need for shelter. They somehow find a tent to shelter them as Mei shields herself from the biting cold. After being finally confronted with the harsh reality of their situation, Lee improvises a makeshift fire using Hiroshi's documents to stave off the encroaching cold. As the group tries not to freeze themselves to death by having some chocolates and crackers that have been packed by Duho, Lee witnesses the icy ground cut through an alarmingly fast pace and starts screaming in frenzy, alerting Kate and Mei to run. Soon, the Vark returns almost ruthlessly, devouring the entire campsite in one smooth, fell swoop. A miraculously unharmed Kate, Mei, and Lee witness the creature's departure, leaving destruction in its wake. In a moment of revelation, Lee finally realizes that the monster is drawn to heat, given that it feasted on both the heat campfire and the burning plane's engines, without showing any particular interest towards the humans themselves. Realizing the potential advantage of this newfound knowledge, Lee then devises a plan to distract the monster and opts to create a substantial bonfire using Duho's frozen dead body. Apparently, this Korean military man always wanted to go out in a blaze of glory, and this was the only plan Lee could cook up with the intent of keeping the creature preoccupied while the trio made their final escape. However, amidst the chaos, Mei, gripped by fear and foreseeing her own demise, makes a heart-wrenching decision and almost commands Kate to abandon her when the time comes, fearing that her presence may jeopardize the group's chances of survival. In fact, she went as far as to say that if the situation called for it, she must also ditch Lee and save herself. Despite Mei's plea, Kate staunchly refuses to leave her behind, determined to stand united against the looming threat. Meanwhile, Kentaro regains his consciousness in the frigid wilderness, only to be greeted by the haunting visions of his father. Compelled by these spectral apparitions, he follows the remnants of his father's trail, leading him to an abandoned base. Inside, Kentaro stumbles on his father's pencil shavings and a phone dangling off its hook. As he delves deeper into the eerie structure, Kentaro's past and present converge in a series of hallucinations where his father's voice congratulates him on his art show, further blurring the lines between reality and the enigmatic world he finds himself in. Back at the crash site, Lee hastily sets up his trap, but the monstrous entity unexpectedly reemerges before Lee even completes his preparations, catching the team off guard. As the trio is startled at this unprecedented attack, Kate and Mei flee in the opposite direction, but their escape coincides with the arrival of a helicopter circling over their heads. With the tension escalating, Lee seizes this moment to trigger his explosive bonfire, which successfully distracts the Titan, who, lured by the flames, falls into the trap provided providing the trio a window for escape. As the monstrous entity is momentarily ensnared in Lee's clever ruse, the trio seizes the chance to board the waiting helicopter that is landed by the crash site, and to their astonishment, Kentaro is already inside the chopper, having orchestrated a successful solo mission to call for help and ultimately saving the day. In the concluding scene of the episode, we witness the 4 survivors soaring to safety in the helicopter. During the flight, Kate expresses her gratitude to Kentaro for his instrumental role in rescuing them, and Kentaro, still processing the revelations from the abandoned base, shares the discovery of his father's pencil shavings, sparking a newfound belief that Hiroshi may still be alive and has probably escaped the Alaskan terrain. As the helicopter lands in civilization, the group is met by Tim, the same Monarch guy who was onto the group back in Japan. This encounter sets the stage for the next chapter of their journey, leaving us on the edge of our seats, eager to unravel the unfolding mysteries and confrontations that lie ahead. New details unraveled on the Ice Titan in the 4th episode of the Monarch series. So sadly, this episode exclusively focused on the humans and marred all our predictions of any new upcoming kaiju, or even a revelation behind Hiroshi's mystery. But as a few bonus brownie points, we do get to know that Vark's weakness is heat. The kaiju does not freeze its victims to death, instead it sucks the heat out of their bodies, which eventually freezes them. Lee's assumption was correct, given that every time this Ice Titan returned, there was a source of heat to draw it out, be it the helicopter's warm engine that Duho further tried to heat up by jump-starting the warplane, the flamethrower used by Kentaro to distract it, the tiny fire lit up by Lee to keep themselves warm, or even the laptop owned by May, which probably retained some moisture, drawing the beast towards her at end and then causing the kaiju to completely freeze it. I mean, what else could be the explanation, given that Lee had not even lit the funeral pyre until then? What is our verdict on this new episode? While parallels and interiors fall slightly short compared to its preceding episode Secrets and Lies, it does not completely lack merit. Despite being the briefest installment thus far, it grapples with a slower pace that at times feels like the plot is actually treading water, spinning wheels and waiting for permission to unveil new revelations. This is best showcased when Kate and Lee burn pages from Hiroshi's files, which probably is a potential goldmine of answers and is prematurely abandoned because it is too early in the plot to reveal such information and is thus being withheld. Moreover, the weakest link persists in the present day. Monarch segments, which is oddly generic and detached from the overarching narrative despite being integral to the show's title, and let's just be honest, we really missed the 50s trio in the episode, which has definitely left a void in the overall storytelling. Nevertheless, Parallels and Interiors has its own strong points with the Kentaro flashbacks, which really enriches his character with a particularly impactful scene featuring Ren Watanabe delivering his standout performance in the series during his flashback moment with Hiroshi, and even his hypothermia-induced hallucinations. Plus, the exploration of Kate and May's dynamic adds an intricate depth, and despite frustrations with burning the files, Kate's bold decision to prioritize May's safety over answers enhances her character's complexity, because initially, she appears to be a self-serving, hard-skinned person, unlike in this episode where we see a softer Kate who simply does not want to lose any other person around her. The episode's pinnacle, however, lies in its outstanding climax. The ingenious tactic of creating a giant fireball to attract a heat-consuming titan only injects cleverness into the narrative. Plus, that chase sequence with Kurt Russell evading the beast while lighting a flare delivers thrilling action. Chef's kiss moment. Coming to the transitions between timelines, they were generally smooth, occasionally cleverly linking present and past situations through Kentaro and May's first date. However, there are instances when the engaging Vark action disrupts the flow during flashbacks. Nonetheless, Parallels and Interiors delivers the anticipated people versus Titan action on a smaller scale, delving insightfully into Kentaro's motivations despite reservations about the present-day Monarch narrative. The effective cliffhanger ending, where the heroes unwittingly fall into Monarch's hands, adds a compelling twist. While not the pinnacle, it stands as a solid episode with its own merits. What do we think might happen in the upcoming episode of Monarch Legacy of Monsters? Given that this episode ended with a massive cliffhanger, I honestly cannot keep any patience for the next. As of what is known in bits and pieces, episode 5 of the series is set to release on the 8th of December, with an anticipation to deliver some heart-pounding kaiju action on Apple TV+. This episode has been rumored to deal with a newly awakened Titan, given that the Monarch found some crazy readings through Dr. Barnes, plus maybe this time we will finally see Hiroshi in the primary timeline and not in a flashback. Given that the episode ended in a major cliffhanger of the Monarch reps finally getting a hold of Kentaro, Lee, Kate, and Shaw, it is possible that they already have Hiroshi in their custody. The pencil shavings that Kentaro found in the abandoned base definitely implies that it was very recently abandoned, and given how unforgiving that icy terrain is, I think it is safe to assume that Hiroshi probably chose to contact them rather than freezing to death. And honestly, we can see a serious grilling scene coming on our way with Tim in charge. Remember the laughingstock of the Monarch office? Apparently, this would be his time to finally shine, where he might interrogate the hell out of the group upon what they faced in Alaska. Although it is possible that after they find out Hiroshi, the group can make for a quick escape while the Monarch tries to fix May's frozen laptop, which held all the evidence of Bill Randa's files. Plus, let's hope and pray we get a good chunk of the 50s flashbacks of the classic Bill, Keiko, and a young Lee Shaw trio to make up for their absence in this episode. So far, Monarch Legacy of Monsters has been on the right track, even if this episode lacked the face of a new kaiju. The plot has evolved to present our characters to be more multifaceted than they appear, plus always, the SFX work is absolutely breathtaking. Now that we've come to the very end of this video, what are your theories about the upcoming episode of the show? Apparently, the rumors hint towards a massive kaiju fight between a titanous rodent and some mysteriously newly awakened kaiju. What do you guys think would happen? Let us know about your thoughts and opinions in the comment box down below.
If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.